Hi, this is Patrick Ian Moore, the editor-in-chief of Edibles Magazine, and I'm here today at the Cosmic Edibles Kitchen with Kevin Harris. Hello, Kevin.
Hello.
How are you today?
That's fine.
Thanks so much for having us.
You're welcome.
Now, you have a very, very interesting story, super interesting background that we want to share with everyone. First off, you were heavily involved with the popular TV show, The Apprentice.
I was, yes.
Can you just tell us the story of how you came to be on and with The Apprentice? And
Sure. Yeah, well, I was in the television business already. I started in the film business in production, and somewhere along the line in my career, I met Mark Burnett, who was doing Survivor at the time, and I started doing a show called Eco Challenge with him, which goes all around the world. It's kind of it's a multi-event, sporting show, just crazy, over the top, sports show where they kayak and mountain bike and run and hike and everything. You look from an island, and so then at some point after doing 2 of those shows, Mark said, "Hey, I'm putting together kind of this Survivor in the city with Donald Trump. Do you want to come out to New York and help me put it together?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I went out to New York and met Donald and kind of formulated it with the showrunner from Survivor, and we basically figured out what the show was, built the whole thing with Donald, came up with the challenges, and then launched it. And initially we did kind of structure it as Survivor in the City,
right.
But then we quickly learned that it wasn't that. It was quite a different beast in itself. And initially the whole fire thing, we didn't even have it part of the creative. That kind of came naturally as we did the first boardroom with him.
And what was your official title?
I was co-executive producer.
Oh wow! So you worked very closely with Donald
Yeah,
Trump.
I did. Yeah. I mean, we got to a point where after about halfway through the first season, we determined that just one single person needed to produce him, because he tended to use other people within the crew to get what he wanted when it was different than something that we needed or wanted. So I would just 100% exclusively manage him and produce him, almost the entire, from picking him up at his apartment to bring him to set to going over what he was going to, talk about during that scene that we needed, who did what on the challenges, what the status was, where we were. So I shadowed him almost the entire time.
And how many years did that go on?
I did 6 seasons, so that's three years pushing 4, as the frontline guy, and then I backed off of it at that point. Just my contract was up with Burnett's production company. I first met with Donald in '99.
Oh wow!
And then we shot it in 2000, and I think it aired in 2001 or 2002, somewhere in that range is where we launched, and that's when it just blew up. I mean, the first season. Still, like our finale, I think had 40-something million people, which is astronomical for television, especially this day and age. I mean, 10 million is a lot right now, so 40 million is like crazy.
We went back and rewatched a little of the first season.
Oh yeah.
Prepping with Omarosa and Sam.
Yeah. You like Sam?
Yeah. I mean, he was an entertaining guy, and he was featured in a documentary about Donald Trump.
Oh, he was?
Recently.
He was doing like the push-ups with the plant paste that he dropped.
Right.
And, he didn't last long, so he told me afterwards, after he got bumped off, he knew he was going to go soon. So he started just making it memorable. Like that was his whole thing. He's like, you know what? I'm going to make this the best. I know I'm going soon, so I'm going to start having fun with this, because I want people to remember me.
So you had an awareness of where some of the contestants felt like they were taking their characters?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, they're not taking them as much as we are. But yeah, you kind of cast. We never casted like characters. We casted just basically a personality. People who we felt would wear it on their sleeve and would their emotion in the moment would actually come out. And that's why we tried to do a casting episode once, and it just did not work. Because it's a lot of the techniques to figure out whether somebody's gonna, what we call lay on the sword, or whether somebody's actually gonna fight. You don't. It's not quite so straightforward. So when we were asking them questions in casting, they were kind of unorthodox, so the whole thing didn't look great. Because to try to find somebody who's gonna like basically fight for their emotions and their needs, naturally. Plus, as an A personality, if you put a bunch of Bs in, everybody's just gonna fold and say,
Right.
fine, do it your way, no problem.
So was that the same basic method in choosing which celebrities were going to be on? How did the celebrities get picked that did Celebrity Apprentice?
Well, they were just casting people who did it, and basically it was just a matter of trying to find people who would do it,
Okay.
more than the other way. But I wasn't frontline involved in that one, so I wasn't 100% involved in the casting and stuff like that.
And you said you worked on the Martha Stewart one
yeah,
as well?
Yeah.
How different was that than the Donald Trump?
Well, structurally, it was exactly the same. Outside of, we kind of made it, instead of business chops, we kind of made it creative chops in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that we cast into it had a little bit more creative sense to them, chefs and artists and stuff like that. Whereas, the Donald's contestants were real estate people, bankers,
right.
This kind of thing. So outside of that, and the fact that, Martha kind of wanted to be a little bit softer. Instead of the boardroom, we were calling it the conference room. Just little things.
And they're pretty different
people,
personality types.
Yeah. Where Donald is Donald. That's always what I've said. The cameras turn on, it's the same guy.
Right.
Cameras turn off, it's the same guy. He never really had this, switch for television.
Mm-hmm.
Where Martha did. So Martha would say and do things off camera that were golden nuggets for us, but yet the minute we turn on the camera, Martha, turned into, Martha Stewart. Hi.
Right.
Yeah, every time. So it was a little more challenge to produce her actually than it was Donald.
Was there a point during The Apprentice that you had a good idea that Donald Trump wanted to be president?
No, I don't think he. I mean, I think he wanted the power, but I don't think he wanted the job.
Right.
Is my opinion. He never talked about it much. I mean, there was always jokes about, running for president and whatnot, but I don't think it was, I think he kind of played with it early on a few times, but it was mostly for the promotion, is my guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one might have started that way.
Right.
I think it might have started as like a promotable thing to do.
Yeah. And you said when you attended his wedding, the Clintons
They were there, yeah. I met the Clintons at his wedding in Florida, which was funny,
That's his wedding to Melania?
Melania, yeah, his current wife. Yeah.
And where was it?
At Mar-a-Lago in Florida, his place there.
How many times have you been to Mar-a-Lago?
Just twice. We
Okay.
filmed there once and then the wedding. Yeah.
Nice.
We just couldn't get down there as much as we wanted because moving a crew and, and all the contestants and the planes, and it just, got a little more expensive. We didn't go often just because of the price of the cost.
And then, so at what point between The Apprentice and you getting into the cannabis edibles business, what was it?
You mean how long?
Yeah, and The Apprentice ended, your time on The Apprentice ended when?
Like 2006.
Oh, okay.
Roughly. I mean, front line producing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I came off the front line right about that time, 5 or 6.
And how did you get into doing cannabis cooking?
Well, it's basically my mother, in a sense, because I was still out producing shows after The Apprentice. And my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I kind of, at the time, understood the benefit of cannabis. And when a loved one's going through chemotherapy and all the, all the crap that you have to deal with that,
Yeah.
you kind of almost think of anything. And I wasn't a big consumer at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I just knew that there were benefits to it. So I just said, Mom, you should try some. Cannabis, I can get you an edible that you can eat and, see if it helps. And so I bought her some gummies. Just I got my medical card and went down and bought her some gummies.
Right.
And she loved them. So that's when I kind of was like, all right, well, let me see what I can do to make these better. And a friend of mine said, well, your cookies are pretty good. Why don't you do something with that and with her, make some cookies for her because she likes those.
So you already were making cookies?
I was, yeah. I've been baking the chocolate chip cookie since I was probably, 8 or 9, a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's my grandma's recipe, and I just took it at some point and became the family, cookie maker. And the first time I made her recipe, I actually screwed it up, but it was better. Like everybody loved them better than Grandma's original recipe.
Oh, wow.
I messed up some of the the ingredients that I used. So then I just kept with mine because everybody loved it, and I made that cookie for 40 years, the same one, just over and over and over again. So whenever we had a family thing, everybody would be like, is Kevin making cookies? And even when I was 12, I'm making cookies for the family thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. So then I decided, you know what? Let me try to figure out how to put the cannabis into these cookies. And it was quite an ordeal. I mean, the first few that I was sending to my mom were probably not the best, but it had the cannabis in it to help her.
What method of infusion were you using to begin with?
Well, I mean, I started bone basics, like right to the, literally I was not a massive consumer, so I went to some of my friends who consumed a lot more than me and asked them, how do I do it? And they said, well, get a crock pot and get some flour and throw it in there with some butter and let it percolate and then filter it out and throw that butter in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I started doing it. So you don't know how much is going in, you don't know, there's lots of things. And the flavor of it, destroyed the cookies. They tasted like eating grass. And the consistency of them changed, the everything. And so I set out to say, all right, I got to get, by keeping this in, the cannabis in the cookies, I have to find a way to make these a lot better. And slowly but surely, I whittled away at it. And I started doing little tricks and removal of the THC out of the flour, boiling it first, taking out a lot of the chlorophylls, lots of things. I tried everything until I finally got to the oil. And it was about that time that people were starting to make really, half decent distillate.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody introduced me to it and said, you should try this. And I'm like, well, I mean, this stuff is like even a thicker sap. How the hell am I going to get this into the damn cookies, right?
Right.
It just doesn't dump out. So I had to figure that out. And I just, I self-taught myself on how to get through that whole process and marry it to the butter and, the whole thing. And then that really changed the dynamic of the cookie. It corrected all the problems I was having, and you were able to use much less of it.
Sure.
And so you could continue the quality of the cookie without compromising that, because of the distillate was less invasive. Let's put it that way.
And they helped with your mom?
Yeah, she loved them, and she still to this day uses them.
So you
mostly
were using
with the CBD now.
Oh, okay.
Because I just for her, I got CBD, and we do have them, but we just don't sell them much. A CBD cookie. So I put 25 milligrams because she played with the milligrams for a long time and figured out 50 was her golden spot.
Yeah.
So 2 of these little cookies a day, and she loves it, and it replaces her narco. In a sense. Sometimes she still needs the narco because the pain's just is intense. But she says about half the time she reaches for the cookies now.
How is she now?
Fine, yeah, she got through it. She fought it and beat it, and had some other medical problems in
That's
that
so
time.
great.
It was a touch and go time.
Mm-hmm.
She was battling breast cancer, and then a couple days later had a stroke. So that sidelined her, and then she had to put off all the treatment on the cancer because the stroke trumped that. No pun intended. And so but she got through it all, and she got back probably 98% of all of her function and everything.
Oh, great.
Yeah. She was treated really great in the hospital.
You developed the cookie for your mom.
Yep.
And then what led to it being taken into the actual cannabis space? So.
Well, she was afterwards saying, you should do this for more people than just me. And so I thought about that quite hard. And The Apprentice, it's a weird thing in a brain of somebody creative who feels like they're influencing viewers in a way. And when you create a character that you're doing the best job you can, presenting somebody as the best for the program, because that's always your goal. It's the show first. So no matter what it is that you want to do creatively to make it the best you can, you do that. So your host can't look bad, because if they do, then the audience starts second guessing. So no matter what, Trump had to be like on fire constantly, at the top of his game, the best you could be. So when he fired somebody, you believed it. You're like, yeah, if Trump says it is. So that was a big thing for me, because afterwards, when I realized how many people actually bought that, it had an effect on me for sure in my train of thought of where I wanted to go myself with life. So this kind of opportunity just was there, and I said to myself, maybe I'm going to take a swing at this. And then I got involved with a UCLA study on using cannabinoids instead of like painkillers.
Right.
And the study was based on, because it had been privately funded, it couldn't be federally funded, so there was a lot of companies who were presenting donations in order to try to help that. So I kind of got involved in that, and that then made me think like maybe I can do this in a position where I feel like I can get something out to market that people can get the best out of, and that's kind of what started it. But then you kind of get into the whole business thing, and I have an economics degree, oddly enough.
Oh, interesting.
So that side of the business stuff was relatively easy for me, but it kind of like you have to think of that first, even if you're doing it for a good purpose, because honestly, you could do something for the best purpose possible, yet have really bad business chops and fail, because you still got to be able to cover your costs.
Right.
And pay for it all and market it, and especially in this business with the amount of taxes and fees and permits and stuff that you have to do. If you're not on top of that, it'll nip you, and you're going to be done before you even started.
Now, when you launched, was it already recreational in California?
It was just going, I believe,
Okay.
right beforehand. So nobody was really issuing at that time. So we searched for almost a year to try to find a location, because that turned to be like, it seemed to be almost the key to entry.
Definitely.
Because most of the spaces that were available in the small little tiny eeny-weeny pockets of places that were legal, the buildings just were in horrible condition, and the amount of money it would cost to get them up to running and inspectable was massive. So I searched for a long time, and almost felt like I almost gave up.
Yeah.
Until this space came along.
This is a great space. And
then I just got lucky and got along with the owner and had a good business model and really had prepped and done my homework and where we were going. So the landlord believed in it, and we got the building. So.
Now, in addition to the degree in economics, do you feel like your time working with Donald Trump and producing The Apprentice taught you more or new things about business that you've been able to use?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I learned a lot from him. He's very shrewd. I mean, I've learned some things not to do and some things to do.
Sure.
Because he's the iron fist kind of like business guy. He throws his fist. I mean, how many times I've heard him do that is crazy. But I did learn like leverage and understanding. Information is power. The more, if whoever you're negotiating with, if you know what you're talking about, it's a much better. You have a much better chance of succeeding. Like for example, one of the first seasons, we were trying to negotiate a hotel deal for all of our crew. In New York City, the hotels are like astronomical. So trying to find a hotel that we can afford for 400 people, that's a huge budget line. So we try to get that down so we could put more money on the screen was a challenge. And we were negotiating with this hotel, and he said to me, "Where's all the crew going to stay?" And I said, "We're talking to this hotel, right? Not far from here." I'll leave the hotel name aside, but I said, "Here's what we're trying to get into." And he said, "Right now, hotel rooms are way down in the city. So what I suggest you do is insult them on how much you're willing to give them. Just insult them." And I said, "Really?" And he's like, "Absolutely. See what happens." And I'm like, "Okay." So I went back to them, and I don't remember, they were asking like at the time $179 a night or something, and their book rate was $300 to $400. So they came down because we had a lot of room nights, with 400 crew members for 30 days. That's a lot of nights that they want to get off their plate, the hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and said, "All right, we'll give you like $95 or something." Just going with that exact philosophy, and they were insulted, and they said, "No way, we can't do it. It's just never going to happen." Blah blah blah. And they walked, and I'm like, "Oh God, that didn't work. This is a mess. Now what are we going to do?" So we're searching for other hotel rooms, and it didn't take them out of 2 days, a day and a half to call us back and say, "All right, how about if we do like $125 and you guarantee us and pay us half up front?" And I'm like, holy shit, it worked. Like, because we were getting ready to do the 179.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just silly things like that. So, I did learn quite a bit from him, business-wise.
Yeah.
And he treats his staff. I mean, there's some staff members that work for him for 30 years, and you can't keep people for 30 years unless you treat them well.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So, there's a lot of, he does have a lot of positive business traits that worked well for him at the Trump organization. And despite some failures, it still did pretty well. I mean, it's relatively successful. So.
And did you learn anything from Martha Stewart that you've used in your edibles business?
No, I wish clearly I wish I could have had her, try my cookies.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't even a blip on the radar at that point.
Okay.
And Martha was a much more challenging person to learn from, because she's much more, I don't know, not reserved, but like hard to crack, in a sense. And that was my forte, was cracking, hosts, celebrities.
And she was out of prison?
Yeah, she had the anklet on.
Oh, right.
So she could work outside of her home for 40 hours a week at that time, and we were using all 40 hours basically.
People do get a little more guarded after they've done time. That's not unusual.
It's normal?
I think so.
Maybe. Yeah, but...
So that kind of brings us back to, now the cookies they're vegan.
Yeah, and that part of the process of doing that was to make them better for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So in that whole process of the year prior to launching, I literally made a list of all the ingredients and said, what do I need to remove to make these dosable every single day? Because I know my mom's going to want to eat them every single day.
Right.
So that's when I decided to go down to bite size, but still keep the doses in there. So this way you can eat them every single day without, a cookie this big after, a month.
Right.
A cookie every day. I mean, that's 30 cookies in 30 days. It's a little nuts. So
yeah.
that was part of the reason I went down in size. And I got to a point where I looked at the ingredients and said, oh wow, this is all plant-based, everything in this. And as long as I was using, vegan ingredients going in, it's a vegan, cookie going out.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I got into it. And I'm not a big meat eater myself, so it was kind of an accomplishment to get to a cookie that still tasted like a fresh bakery cookie that is fully vegan.
Sure.
And that's part of, we do have an issue because, we made these cookies for everybody. There's a lot of people who think that vegan means that it's not going to be as good.
Right.
And so that part has been challenging for us, to try to convince people that, vegan is just a term to say that these cookies are, more healthy, but do I use the more healthy term? Not necessarily, because they're still cookies, but they're definitely better, than a traditional baked cookie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's how they became vegan. Yeah.
And then it helped with the shelf stability.
Yes. Yeah. By removing the things that went bad, we were able to stretch it out for months. And then I started using some different ingredients, some syrups and stuff that kind of helped with the moisture.
Okay.
Like we're using a rice syrup right now.
Oh, right.
And it works really well with keeping the moisture in the cookie.
Yeah.
And it's not a secret because we do put it on the packaging, but obviously how much we put in and how we do it is our own little formulation of it.
And you guys were able to develop a way where every single cookie is dosed.
Yeah, it took us a long time. We hit some missed dosings in our entry early levels.
Yeah, it happens.
Quite a bit, and I actually ended up working with a food scientist to try to correct it.
Oh, excellent.
Because the price of those guys, even though you have to pay a few thousand, it's so much. Well, I mean, if you're putting 4 cookies into the lab at $800 a test, that's $3,200 right there, and a good food scientist is $3,000. So you've already, if you fail one test, you've just paid for the food scientist. So he came in and helped us, basically take our recipes and formulate them in a way that then we could control the measurements a lot better. And then, it's just a manual game. We weigh every cookie. So every single cookie coming out of here is spot on what our weight is. And then it's a calculation. We just back into it. So as long as we know at the top end, and there was a whole thing, this is part of it that lost me to begin with to have the food scientists come in, because there's a water loss you get by baking the cookie, so your dough is heavier than the final cookie in the exact same pieces.
Sure.
So in order to dose the final cookie correctly, you have to calculate that water loss. So you have to make the cookies, calculate the water loss, and then go all the way back to the top where you're putting the distillate in it to have the right amount to be put in there. Plus, when you have chocolate chips that aren't dosed, you have to be careful to make sure you get so many chocolate chips in each cookie, because then the dough, one more chocolate chip messes with it.
Right.
So you have to be really careful of that, and there's a lot of steps you have to take in the actual making of the cookie to ensure that you're hitting your potencies. You do have a little bit of a variant, we do have the 10%. So usually every cookie has 9 to 10 chips in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the 9ers will get into the higher 10s. The 10ers will be in the 9.6s, 9.7s.
And those are, each one's 10 milligrams of THC?
Correct, yeah.
And you get 10 per package?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, we sell singles and then a 10 pack.
And the packaging, let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic a little bit.
Yeah.
It's cosmic edibles?
Yeah.
And how did you come up with that?
Well, originally we were rocket edibles, because obviously the rock, our little rocket, which is the little guy, which it didn't have a window to begin with. It's quite funny, and we put a window in it to show that it's actually it's not for cargo. It's actually for people.
Right.
This way, when you eat the cookie, you take a ride, and then the whole weed leaf is the propellant of your rocket.
That's very cool.
So originally we were rocket edibles, and our legal team at the time, they did a whole research to figure out what kind of risk you had, and there was a rocket edible in Colorado. It wasn't operational, but they still had the trademark now. So the lawyers suggested that we rebrand right away, just so it would cost us a heck of a lot less at that point than it would further in the game, and they could easily come after us and have a case. So at that point we made a big list of names, and it was actually my son who came up with Cosmic, and I just loved it. So I was hemming and hawing, and he said you should name it Cosmic, and it was just basically over at that point.
Great name.
Yeah. So and then when we developed the little tubes that we made, it's recycled packaging. When we made them, the craft is a recycled paper, and what I did is I found the smallest cookie scoop I could possibly find, and it took me I probably went through 20 or 30 cookie scoops, the little hand scoop things. And then I made a ton of cookies on the smallest ones I could find to try to keep the consistency. And after doing that and measuring them and nailing the formulas long enough, I came up with an average size of what the cookie would be, which is what turned out to be this size here.
Oh, very cool.
Custom made. So this way, when the cookie goes into them, the stack, there's no movement.
Right.
So when you throw them in your car or your bag, you still end up with intact cookies in the end.
That's
great.
the
reason we tubed them as opposed to bag them. There's a bag that actually goes down inside too.
So then the bag inside is the childproof.
Correct.
Compliant.
Yeah. You can have multiple packaging. One of them has to be compliant at some point.
And then in addition to the Cosmic edibles, the rocket, there's also the character, the Cosmic Baker.
Yeah, and that was an idea that a friend of mine who used to be in marketing at Red Bull suggested to put a face to the brand, and yeah, this is my little Cosmic Baker. Yeah, kind of looks like me.
It looks a lot like you.
That's weird. A friend of mine's an animator. He's in London. His name's Jake. He's fantastic. So I asked him to do this when this idea came out, and then we can kind of play with it, and he becomes kind of the baker behind these cookies, and we're going to do some content with him. So
nice.
Experiments and tests and fun things, and different things you can do with our cookies, ice cream sandwiches, things you can do with the tubes, because these tubes can be used after you eat your cookies. So we're going to start doing some of that stuff, things around our brand.
And where are they available right now? That's California only.
California only, yeah, and we're focusing mostly on the Southern California market right now.
Okay.
Just because we distribute all of our own cookies, we manage all the accounts, we do all the in-store promotions and everything, all from this facility. So the further out we go, the more that was stretched. So we just decided to really focus on this market here because it's massive in Los Angeles, all the way down to Orange County, all the way up to Santa Barbara. That's our market right now. We've had a lot of interest in other markets that we will expand to eventually once we kind of get this one stable. And we have it. On our website. There's a map. We keep pretty much on current of what shops we're in. Plus, if you go to our social media, we put fresh drop indicators on there. So when we drop fresh cookies, we put up on the social media where we're dropping fresh ones.
And what's the social media handle?
Edibles _ cosmic.
Okay.
But you can also search just cosmic edibles and we'll pop up. Mm-hmm. Which is a funny, silly story too, because we started as cosmic edibles. And then I realized that by searching edibles, so if somebody just was going to Instagram and put in the word edibles in, if I had it as cosmic edibles, we were further down. If I had it as edibles cosmic, we were higher.
Oh.
So I switched it.
Yeah.
So we were just initially edibles cosmic, but then Instagram, deleted our Instagram account twice. So the first time they deleted it, we were edibles cosmic. The second time they deleted it, we were edibles.cosmic. And now we're sitting on the third one, which is edibles _ cosmic. And the reason I just kept adding that is because we already had it in print, and all the old prints, if you still search them, we still come up, even with the underscore. So you don't have to put the underscore. But yeah, we're edibles _ cosmic basically.
Why do you think they took down your Instagram account?
I don't know. I mean, we have cookies. I never had any actual flower up or anything like that, and we never pushed the cannabis side of it. It was basically fresh baked cookies, and my guess is maybe competitors. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Because we've had a few interactions with people just realizing how great our cookies are. Moments that were quite fun because we spend a lot of time on the quality of the cookie. It's very, very important to us. And there's cookies that people would eat that we put into waste just because they don't meet the standards that we've set for ourselves, and we keep it really high on purpose. Well, we will expand to some other products eventually, but we really want to make this once we kind of not conquer, because that's a bad word, once we kind of get out much bigger on this cookie and the base product, our cookie line is self-sufficient and running itself, then we can start adding layers of other products to it. So we're going to have some new flavors. Obviously this next holiday we're probably going to have a holiday cookie. We've tried it before, but regulations make it a little more difficult to have special edition cookies. But the actual holiday season is long enough that you can necessitate doing a special cookie for that. So we're probably going to do that. We're putting out our content, which we're going to do a lot of fun things with, cannabis content. And then most likely, if we get off onto some other tangents, we'll just keep it, keep our brand, which is high quality premium, premium edibles and products. Just keep it intact. Make sure that we remove all the bad items out of them and redevelop them.
Are you looking to take it into any other states, compliant states?
Yeah, for sure, we'll do that. I think that's a must on a big brand. We're not thinking small,
right?
But we're starting small.
Well, because it is recreational, because we have a lot of readers and listeners outside California, but anyone visiting California with a valid ID can find these.
Yes, they can.
In Southern California.
Yeah, and we're definitely looking to expand. We've already started looking at some of the other states, just initially to see where licensing is much easier, and also partnering with people that could make them for us in those other states.
And do you think there's any point where our current president is going to try these cookies?
I don't know. Donald, you want some?
Because he's in California every now and then.
He is. Oh yeah, he does. He owns a golf course here, so he comes. I don't think he would try the cannabis ones. I can't imagine, but I could probably get some cannabis-free cookies in this.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't know how the heck you get cookies into the president. It has to go through a massive process, right? Don't they have to? It's crazy.
Well,
yeah.
They bring their own chefs. They bring their own food.
But I think a Secret Service guy would have to try one first to make sure.
It's legal in DC.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't even know I'm doing this. So like the cannabis side.
Well, hopefully he will now. Maybe if with any luck, he'll
Yeah.
retweet this video
Maybe he will.
and
Yeah.
say something interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
to go with.
ultimately, it's not far fetched to say, you know, the
It's-
money that I made on The Apprentice, I'm using to fund this. So that, you know, you could squeeze that even tighter and say, you know, Donald Trump is, you know, he owned the show. I mean, The Apprentice is half his show. So I worked for him. You know, technically, he was my boss, and I produced that show for him, and I got paid for that, but from him.
Right.
And here I am using that money. Maybe he'd be proud of me. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a good business, you know.
I think that's the quote that we
I mean,
needs to get his attention. If he funded your edibles business, then
yeah, it's not as far fetched because I'm definitely using the money that I made on The Apprentice to do this.
that's a good
Yeah.
cause, though.
Now,
That's circle of life.
self-funding it all. So I have no.
Oh, nice.
I have
That's
no
excellent.
investors.
So are there any final thoughts on the Apprentice, Donald Trump, Martha Stewart, Arnold Schwarzenegger, anything?
Well, yeah, I don't know much about Arnold just because I wasn't physically producing that one. But you know, I mean, I'm a registered Democrat, so no matter what, you know, I tend to lean that direction. I don't think that I always said to myself, Donald's Trump organization is a dictatorship. Like he made all the rules and the decisions. Period. It was what you know. A lot of things came out of the organization and promotional things that probably shouldn't have happened because nobody was willing to say no to him.
Mm-hmm.
So, like he made a water, and on the label it was all red and orange. And he asked me one day if I liked the you know, it's called Trump Ice. If I liked the label, and I guess I was the only one to say no because I said it's red. It feels like it's hot water. I don't want to. It should be blue or something, so I feel like it's cold. He said, well, it's ice, and I said I know, but it's red. Yeah, so like, you know, I think most people just said, yeah, that's great, you know. So I knew by committee he'd have a hard time. He doesn't operate like that. He operates in making a decision, period. You know, and you know, would he take consultation? Maybe, but he ultimately would do what he wanted to do, period. So I knew it would be a struggle because, you know, that branch of government is only part of our government, and he had to work with the other branches. So I think that was, like, to me, I thought would be the biggest struggle that he would have, and he's not the type to operate in a democratic government, you know. And I guess there's a lot of things that are happening that prove that point.
Sure.
Yep.
Any thoughts about what he said about cannabis having potentially some medical benefit?
Yeah, I don't know. I try to keep up with what he's saying in the cannabis business because now it affects me. But I'm not sure he'll mess with it. I think he's probably got a negative train of thought about it, just based on being around him so much. I can't imagine he's completely behind it. I think he understands that if somebody has a traumatic medical problem, that you do anything you can for them, and I think that's where he sees the benefit of cannabis, is for that specifically. But I think he truly still believes that people using it recreational is not good, and I can't imagine he would support any kind of that. He doesn't even like alcohol.
Right.
So he's adamant against it. When we'd have rap parties, I wouldn't drink anything until he left. And then, yeah, because I just didn't want. I just knew he'd look down on you if you were drinking in front of him. So I never did ever. But he would only stay an hour and then he'd bail, and I knew I'd have time to have more beers. Yeah,
That's funny.
Well, he signed the hemp farm bill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the farm bill, which had a hemp clause
Yeah.
in it, and
Yeah.
that was beneficial to hemp cultivators. But
Yeah.
also, he may not have read the whole thing.
I think he gets a lot of pressure from the other Republicans in this arena, is my guess. Because he has some. I mean, honestly, I think he was Democrat at some point, so I do think he has some heart in him. I just said that on the podcast, like totally, like I rewatched it and I basically talked him up, like because he I did witness him writing checks to troubled children organization and stuff. Like I physically witnessed that stuff. So I mean, he pulled over one time and helped somebody who had was stranded in their car and in his limo going to New Jersey. Someone who's stranded on the turnpike or whatever and was out there, and they pulled over and helped him. So he has that in him, but I think it's so he doesn't let that part out.
You would think he would have some, at least, respect for the potential ability of making money, generating revenue that the cannabis industry brings.
And I think that's the only upshoe that we have, because it's all about money for him. And when he sees an industry that has a B associated with it, like clearly that it's not completely a negative, train of thought, because any business that's making billions is on his radar without a doubt. Yeah, if he wasn't president, my guess is he'd get involved. That's my guess, because it's a business that
Stewart making you a latte. Can you tell us that story again?
Yeah. Cappuccino. Yeah, we were going. We had tasks basically every single episode, so we'd have a list of them, and I was sitting with her at her house going over the episodes that we were going to shoot and getting her feedback and her opinions, and then we'd go back and change them based on more insight to her world. And at some point while we were having this discussion, she says to me, Kevin, would you want a cappuccino? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I love cappuccinos. I'll have one. And I was thinking to myself that she would call out one of her house, helpers or workers, and say, give me 2 cappuccinos. And she literally stood up, and the cappuccino machine wasn't far from where we were sitting. We were on her dining room table, and you could see it. She gets up and tells me to continue, and walks over to the cappuccino machine and starts making me a cappuccino. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to get a Martha Stewart cappuccino, like a real Martha Stewart cappuccino. So she brought it back to me and hands it to me, and I was just like in heaven, like thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm like, this isn't a little Martha Stewart cappuccino mix that you buy at the store and put hot water in it. This is a Martha Stewart cappuccino. Right. That was the best cappuccino ever.
Was it great?
Yeah, I mean, I do remember it being great. I don't remember anything more than that because of the moment that it was actually a Martha. I think it could have been crap, and I still would have been happy because it was a Martha Stewart, And she taught me right afterwards, after this, because then she said, I'm having a lunch party. Some friends are coming over, so I got to move over to the kitchen. I'm gonna debone a chicken. Can I teach you how to debone a chicken? So she taught me how to debone the whole chicken.
Oh wow!
Yeah, take a full chicken and debone the whole thing. Just in it's like you literally pull it off. There's a trick to it. I didn't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, I mean, the cappuccino was probably top 10, 25 things I've ever experienced.
If people want to learn more, see the store locator, see what flavors are available, what's your website?
CosmicEdibles.com.
CosmicEdibles.com.
Yeah, and you can also see the Instagram link on there, and it has all of our shops, all of our products, all the ingredients, everything's on there. All the information you need. You can subscribe to our newsletter, which we haven't done one yet,
right.
But we're gonna. So it's just one of those things. But we've picked up quite a few. At the bottom where you can put your email. We've picked up quite a few. I'm surprised.
That's great.
Just out of the blue. So we're gonna start utilizing that and sending information that way.
And then people can watch for more coming from the cartoon.
Yep. Yeah. Because there's a second Instagram, which is our Cosmic Baker. It's the official Cosmic Baker. And there's where we'll have a lot of the fun elements, the experiments and things will go up on here. And then we have a YouTube channel too that it'll transition to, which is the Cosmic Baker also.
Oh, great! And are there any events that you're definitely doing? People could maybe, if they're attending, they could seek you out at.
Sure. Yeah, we do. I mean, we try to do about every 3 or 4 months. We do try to do one. The next one is the Hall Flowers. We're doing on April 1st and 2nd in Palm Springs.
Awesome.
So we already signed up for that one. So we're looking forward to that. It's one of our biggest ones that I think we've done at this point. It's a 2-day event, and so we'll be there. We'll have all of our information. You'll be able to get our cookies. They've set up a dispensary that comes there for the consumption side of it.
Oh, excellent.
We'll have all of our. We do have our non-medicated, cannabis-free, we call it, cookies. that all the dispensaries we're in will have cookie jars of these, so you can actually go in and try the cookie prior to to getting the infused one.
And they taste the same?
Exactly the same. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they're basically, I mean, the distillate, you know, is like, it maybe does a 1% change to it, but, you know, most people can't tell.
And they're chocolate chip, double chocolate, snickerdoodle, and peanut butter?
Yeah, so we have the double chocolate, which is that one. And then the snickerdoodle, which is red. We just chose fun colors just to, outside of the chocolate chip, which is brown, clearly, and the peanut butter, which is yellow, obviously, peanut butter.
Yeah.
The other ones are just kind of some, you know, bright colors we use, and we've kind of got them laid out for the flavors that we're looking at. Like, we're looking at an oatmeal cookie and another sugar cookie. And so we have some more colors that we can use for those, you know, moving forward. The oatmeal cookie it's probably going to be the next one that we put out.
Sweet.
Yeah, and so most of our cookies also use real, you know, we use super high-end ingredients. We get some of the top flours, and you know, we use a peanut butter flour, and we use the cocoa powder in the double chocolate, and it's a really high end. It's more expensive by double of regular stuff you can get, but once again, we strive on that, and if we have to remove that, then you know, the whole basis for what we're doing kind of falls apart. So we stay really true to our ingredients, and all these cookies have the same basic ingredient. So the formulas start the same. With the sugar and the butter, it's the same every single time, and then we add the other things into it as we go.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Of course.
This is going to be a great issue, and this has been Edibles Magazine talking to Kevin Harris of Cosmic Edibles.
Thank you, man. Nice to meet you.